Florida State is coming off a historic season, but it's for all the wrong reasons. The Seminoles went a shocking 2-10 in 2024, the first time since 1974 that the program finished with 2 wins or less. And they now enter 2025 with some major questions, but the top 2 are, number 1, will they bounce back? And number 2, if they don't, is Mike Norvell really the right guy for this job? We'll touch more on that in 1 second. But welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. So glad you could join us to break down the Florida State Seminoles. We are going to be at the 2025 season before we know it. It'll be here like that. Never too early to start looking ahead. And again, here at our channel, we're talking college football with you 24/7, 365. So if you want nonstop football content and discussion and debate and analysis, this is the place for you. Check out everything down in our description. We've got our website, thegridironexpert.com. Tons of exclusive content over there. We want you to like, comment, subscribe, share the videos, hit that notification button so you don't miss out on anything over the course of the entire year so you can become a member of our GE Nation. So much to dissect here down in Tallahassee. Nobody saw the failures from Florida State coming in 2024. It was realistic to think they'd take a step back. You go undefeated in the regular season, win the ACC championship, but you lose a lot of talent. I don't think anybody thought the Seminoles would do that again, right? But nobody saw 2-10 coming. No one saw them missing the postseason. I don't think anybody saw that. But the first thing I want to touch on here is Mike Norvell. And I think even if you're a Florida State fan, you have to legitimately ask yourself, is he the right guy for this job? All right, he goes 2-10 in 2024, and you can blame a lot of things. You can blame poor quarterback play. You can blame poor line play. But again, we all thought this was a pretty good roster back in the preseason. It looked like they had all the pieces. Sometimes it doesn't gel. Sometimes you blame coaching. Sometimes you blame a little bit of both. But in 5 full seasons with the Seminoles, Norvell is just 33-27. He has 3 losing seasons. 3 out of the 5 years he's been there have been losing seasons. The thing that has saved him is obviously that great 2-year stretch where he went 23-4 from 2022 to 2023. 10-3 in 2022, 13-1 with an ACC championship in 2023. But here's the thing, if you dissect those numbers a little bit more, you realize that, great, I mean, don't take anything away from him, but it wasn't like he was winning the SEC or the Big Ten or even beating any quality opponent. In 2022, the year they went 10-3, they didn't beat anybody. They won 10 games and didn't beat anybody. They went 0-3 versus ranked teams, so didn't beat a single ranked opponent. And they beat 3 teams that finished with a winning record. So 13 games, only 3 of your 10 wins were against teams that finished with a winning record. Everybody was just really, really bad. And the games that mattered the most against those ranked teams, you couldn't win. So you had a cush schedule with a team that was finding itself. Great season, 10 wins, won your bowl game. Don't take anything away from that. But it wasn't like they did anything noteworthy. And then the next year, practically everybody came back in 2023, so they had one of the most experienced rosters in the entire country and played a lot better. Went 3-0 versus ranked opponents. So that was good. Kind of reversed what happened in 2022. They went undefeated. They won the ACC championship despite Jordan Travis going down. But still, 6 of their 13 wins came against teams that finished the year with a losing record. So almost half their wins coming against teams that finished with a losing record. And then, of course, they saw that 60-point beatdown in the Orange Bowl against Georgia. And credit that to what you will. Say it's because of the injuries. Say it's because of the opt-outs, because they weren't motivated. It really doesn't matter. Florida State was always going to lose that game after the opt-outs and after the injuries, things like that. But by 60 points, that's just downright awful, downright embarrassing. Overall, in 5 years with Florida State, Mike Norvell is 4-11 against top 25 teams. Let that sink in. He's been there for 5 years. He's 4-11 against top 25 teams, and 3 of those 4 wins came in 2023. And you could say it's because they haven't faced that many top 25 teams because the ACC has been relatively weak, but honestly, that makes the case even worse for Mike Norvell. The ACC has been relatively weak over the last 5 years. There haven't really been any dominant teams outside of maybe Clemson. Miami's been good every now and then. Hasn't been any true dominant teams, and yet they're 4-11 against top 25 teams. And he's just 33-27 overall. 23 of those wins, again, coming in a 2-year span. 3 losing seasons. He also has home losses to Jacksonville State and to Memphis. They suffered that loss to the Tigers this last year. So he did well at Memphis to get himself this job at Florida State. We saw what he was capable of in a 2-year stretch when he had decent talent and when he had a schedule that really benefited him. what's going to happen now in 2025? Mike Norvell, in my opinion, is on the hot seat. And I know that sounds ridiculous to say, only really one full season removed from that 13-1 season. But if he shows up and has another losing season in 2025, how can you justify keeping him around? Florida State expects to contend at a high level. They expect to contend for conference titles and a playoff berth, especially now the playoff has expanded to 12 teams. How can you justify 4 losing seasons in 6 years if that does in fact happen in 2025? And even for Florida State fans, I can see many people still being very upset if he only musters a 6-6 or 7-5 record. That's not competing at a high level. That's going to a mediocre bowl game. That's not the standards that have been set before this program. So what's going to happen in 2025? Well, here's the thing. Mike Norvell, I think, recognized a lot of the problems. And he has a complete overhaul of the entire team. We saw a complete overhaul from a coaching standpoint and a complete overhaul from a roster standpoint. The offense completely changed. They bring in a new offensive coordinator, Gus Malzahn. Many believe he's still one of the better offensive minds in the game. Former head coach at UCF. Left the head coaching game at UCF to become the OC with the Seminoles. And a major reason for Florida State's struggles last year was because their quarterback play was atrocious. DJ Uiagalelei was a complete and utter failure. Florida State quarterbacks combined for 11 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and just a little over 2,100 yards. So an entire 12-game season, and all their quarterbacks combined only threw for a little over 2,100 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. It was bad. Really, really bad. So Norvell brings in a very good offensive coordinator. He brings in a new quarterback in Thomas Castellanos from Boston College, who played a little bit under Gus Malzahn during his freshman year at UCF. But here's the thing. Can they get the most out of Castellanos? We saw what he was able to do 2 years ago. When he was at Boston College 2 years ago, had 33 touchdowns, 19 interceptions, rushed for over 1,100 yards, 13 touchdowns, played really good ball, right? Well, last year he was so bad he got benched. That was supposed to be kind of a breakthrough year for Boston College. People thought they might be pretty solid in year one under Bill O'Brien. They still made a bowl game, but still, Castellanos only had a little over 1,300 passing yards, 194 rushing yards, and got benched in the season. So, do we get that Castellanos? And if so, Florida State's in for a world of hurt. Or do we get the one we saw 2 years ago where his decision-making still needs work, but his dual threat capability is what makes him so dangerous? That's going to be an interesting, interesting partnership down in Tallahassee this year. But he's going to have weapons, right? They do a complete overhaul on the offensive line. 4 new offensive linemen coming in through the transfer portal. They went out and got Squirrel White from Tennessee. They got Deuce Robinson from USC. So Castellanos is going to have some weapons. The running back core underrated as well. The offense should look completely different and should be a lot better. It actually might look like they know what they're doing. They got a new defensive coordinator, Tony White, coming in, bringing his 3-3-5 system down to Tallahassee, and they get some key pieces there as well from the transfer portal. Again, this is Norvell recognized how bad last year was, how unacceptable last year was, and made the appropriate changes. Is what a head coach should do. He made the changes on his staff, and he went out and got talent that would fit their system and give them the best chance to compete in what really, to me, is a wide open ACC. Clemson, to me, is the top dog. We talked about them earlier this week. Clemson's going to be the team to beat. But who Clemson plays in that ACC championship, it's wide open. SMU's a contender. Miami's a contender. Don't sleep on North Carolina and Bill Belichick. Maybe it's Florida State. Syracuse won 10 games last year. I mean, there's so many teams that could challenge for that spot, but we don't know exactly who it's going to be. Florida State certainly would love to be one of them. But the last thing you have to talk about is the schedule. Can they navigate the schedule? They open the year at home against Alabama. Talk about a great measuring stick. Even if Florida State loses that game, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't ruin their playoff hopes. It doesn't ruin their ACC title hopes. The season's not over if they lose to Alabama. They're already like 8-point underdogs to Alabama. You've got 2 new coordinators, a brand new quarterback, almost a completely new team from the disaster that was that 2-10 season last year. So obviously Florida State's not going to be favored, but it's going to be a great measuring stick. If they beat Alabama, everybody's going to be on cloud 9. If they lose, but it's close, it shows they can compete. So an interesting game there, but a lot of people would expect that to be a loss. They do get to host Miami. They do get to host Virginia Tech, but they do have to go on the road to Clemson and to Florida, who's expected to have a pretty big year. So you look at the Bama, Clemson, Florida games, probably going to be underdogs there. Say they lose all 3 of those games, they're not going to the playoff, right? More than likely. Maybe they find a way to slip into the ACC championship, and if they win that, they're in, because it's kind of what Clemson did. But that would be only one conference loss. They lost to Clemson. Bama, Florida, both coming from the SEC. So maybe Florida State pulls a Clemson where they lose, 3 or something regular season games, but because maybe they're in the non-conference, they're able to still slip into that title game, and if they win that, they're in. If they lose, they're out. That kind of situation. I wouldn't be shocked to see that. So, again, Florida State fans, don't freak out if you have 3 losses, assuming the majority of them are in non-conference play to the Gators and to the Crimson Tide. But the schedule is relatively manageable. Some tough games there, as we mentioned, Clemson, Florida, Bama. Miami, not going to be a slouch, even though they get that game in Tallahassee. This is a team that, again, it's one of those things that could range from a losing season. It could range to a ACC championship berth. Florida State is such a major mystery heading into 2025. And that wasn't the case for us last year. We felt confident that Florida State was going to be good. They weren't. This year, you want to believe Florida State's going to be good, but we don't know for sure. But I'm also not going to go out there and say they're going to be bad either. Very, very big mystery across the board. And this is going to be a very intriguing team to watch as we enter 2025. A very, very big year for Mike Norvell, because another failure, and do not be surprised if he is the one that is kicked out of Florida. Not Billy Napier. We all thought it would be Billy Napier in Florida that got kicked out first. Could end up being Mike Norvell if he has another rough season with the Seminoles. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to those expert picks, home to our newsletters, home to all the exclusive content there for you to help you get through this offseason. Again, the offseason never really starts here at our channel. We are talking nonstop football with you, nonstop college football content. We want you to take advantage of it. We want you to become a member of our GE Nation, but check everything out there. Make sure to hit that notification button so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.